Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Yellow Chair Devotionals. Now, how many of you are 7 years old? How about 8 years old? Do I have any 7-year-olds or 8-year-olds? Because today's story, I think you might be able to relate. Here comes our character card. We've got a kid who's the king. And look at, he's in front of all the people. We've got the palace and the temple behind. He's holding a scroll in one hand and a scepter with the other. Who could our king be? Now, there were a couple of boy kings, but this one that we're looking at today has to do with the fact that there was no king like him who turned to the Lord with all his heart. Isn't that amazing? Even King Saul, King David, King Solomon, all these other kings, there was no king like this king who turned to the Lord with all his heart. This is Josiah. Josiah became the king of Judah when he was 8 years old. The people of his kingdom had forgotten all about God's laws, but Josiah led the people to return to God, to follow his commandments, and to celebrate all that God had done for them. Now, we are in the book of 2 Kings again. 2 Kings. We were here yesterday exploring Elisha. And with Elijah and Elisha both, we talked about how the people kind of followed whatever the king was doing. If the king believed in God, the people believed in God. If the king was worshiping idols like Baal, the people would do that too. They just were these followers. And so the prophets, up until this point, they were trying to be God's mouthpiece. Follow me. I love you. I want a relationship with you. I'm the one true God. And so we have some boy kings who actually did a really good job of pointing the people back to God. Now, the other boy king that sometimes we mix these guys up because their names are so similar is Joash. Have you heard about Joash? Maybe you've read that story in some of like the Bible books. I think like the Orange Bible books, he's in those. And King Joash, he's the one where they hid him away so that he wouldn't be killed because people were fighting over the throne. And when Joash becomes king at 7 years old, think about it, those of you who are 7, imagine becoming king or queen at 7. Joash, the temple is falling apart. Solomon built that beautiful temple, but because people are worshiping other gods and because other countries and nations are attacking and people are forgetting about God, the temple is falling apart. But Joash is determined to follow God, and so he collects offerings and they rebuild and they kind of repair the temple. So that's King Joash. Today, we're going to look more at King Josiah. So he comes even later in the story. So King Joash was in 2 Kings 11, if you wanted to read that story on your own later. We're going to 2 Kings 22. 2 Kings 22. All right, so think like 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings. If you hit Chronicles, you've gone too far. All right, so 2 Kings 22. And we're going to read here together. All right, so we've got the big number 22. Our guides up at the top tell us when we're close. We're going to read these together here. All right, so hit pause if you need more time to find it because I want to be able to read along with you. All right, so 2 Kings 22, starting at the beginning. Okay. Josiah was 8 years old when he became king, and he ruled 31 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jediah, daughter of Adiah. Adiah was from Bozkath. Josiah did what the Lord said was right. He did good things as his ancestor David had done. Josiah did not stop doing what was right. In Josiah's 18th year as king, he sent Shaphan to the temple of the Lord. Shaphan was the son of Azaliah, who was the son of Meshullam. Shapha was the royal assistant. Josiah said, "Go up to Hilkiah, the high priest. Have him empty out the money the gatekeepers have gathered for the people. This is the money they've brought into the temple of the Lord. Have him give the money to the supervisors of the work on the temple. They must pay the men to work to repair the temple of the Lord. The workers are carpenters, builders, and stone workers. Also use the money to buy timber and cut stone to repair the temple. They do not need to report how they use the money given to them. They are working honestly." So again, we're having to rebuild the temple. So a lot of time has gone by. Maybe you guys have done work on your house or at your church or at your school. And over time, you've just got to repair stuff, right? And so again, we're having to fix up the temple, especially because there were some some kings in between Joash and Josiah who again weren't following God. So the temple just kind of was falling apart. All right, so now we're in verse 8. Hilkiah, the high priest, said to the royal assistant Shaphan, "I found the book of the teachings of the law. It was in the temple of the Lord." He gave it to Shaphan, who read it. Then Shaphan, the royal assistant, went to the king and reported to Josiah, "Your officers have paid out the money that was in the temple of the Lord, and they've given it to the workers and supervisors at the temple." Then Shaphan, the royal assistant, told the king, "Hilkiah, the priest, has given me a book." And Shaphan read from the book to the king. The king heard the words of the book of the law and the teachings, and he tore his clothes to show how upset he was. He gave these orders to Hilkiah the priest and Ahikam, son of Shaphan. He also gave them to Akbor, son of Michai, Shaphan, and Isaiah. Shaphan was the royal assistant, and Isaiah was the king's servant. These were Josiah's orders. "Go and ask the Lord about the words in the book that we have found. Ask for me and for all the people and for all of Judah. The Lord's anger is burning against us because our ancestors did not obey the words of this book. They didn't do all the things written for us to do." So Hilkiah the priest, Ahikam, Akbar, Shaphan, and Isaiah left, and they went to talk to Halda, the prophetess. She was the wife of Shallum, son of Tikvah, the son of Haris. Haris took care of the king's clothes. Halda lived in Jerusalem in the new area of the city. All right, so we've run across a lot of crazy names, but the gist of it is they've discovered the scrolls, they've discovered the books that Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, all of these books, and they read them, and Josiah gets so sad and so angry that he tears his robes and he goes, "We haven't been obeying God. We haven't been doing what this says. Oh, no wonder that we as a nation are struggling so much. We've forgotten about God." So now he goes, "Will you go ask God what we should do? How do we fix this?" So they go to Halda, and Halda is a prophetess. All right, so just like Elijah or Elisha, Halda, she is the mouthpiece of God, and she's going to share with them. So here's what she says in verse 15. She said to them, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Tell the man who sent you to me, this is what the Lord says. I will bring trouble to this place and to the people living here. It is in the words of the book which the king of Judah has read. The people of Judah have left me. They've burned incense to other gods. They've made me angry by all the idols they have made. My anger burns against this place like a fire. It will not be put out. Tell the king of Judah, Josiah, who sent you to ask the Lord, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says about the words you heard. You heard my words against this place and its people. You became sorry in the Lord's presence for what you had done. I said they would become cursed and would be destroyed, and then you tore your clothes to show how upset you were, and you cried in my presence. This is why I have heard you, says the Lord. So I will cause you to die, but you will be buried in peace. You won't see all the trouble I will bring to this place." So they took her message back to the king. Man, can you imagine? So the Lord is saying, Josiah, you have heard, you have read, and you have repented. You're so sad about this that I'm not going to take out my anger on you. But there is trouble that's going to come to your nation, to the people, because they have continued to be a follower of everyone else and not a follower of me. And so the Lord says, eventually there's going to be some trouble that's going to come. So now we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going in chapter 23 now. At the beginning it says, "Then the king gathered all the older leaders of Judah and Jerusalem together. He went up to the temple of the Lord. All the men from Jerusalem and Judah went with him. The priests and prophets and all the people from the least important to the most important went with them. And he read to them all the words of the book of the law, the book that was found in the temple of the Lord. The king stood by the pillar, and he made an agreement in the presence of the Lord. He agreed to follow the Lord and obey his commands, rules, and laws with his whole being. He agreed to do what was written in this book. Then all the people promised to obey the agreement." All right, so that's what we're seeing here in our character card, right? He's in front of all the people and he reads it and he says, we are going to follow what God says we should do. We're going to follow it. So now fast forward a few verses to verse 21, all right? So follow your small numbers down, because the few verses that we're skipping over is him reading all of this, and then there's a lot of names about how they're tearing down the altars to the false gods and how they're trying to repent. And in verse 21, it says, "The king gave a command to all the people. He said, 'Celebrate the Passover to Lord your God. Do it as it is written in the book of the law. No Passover like this has been celebrated since the judges left Israel.'" Judges were like Gideon way back then. "Nor has one like it happened while there were kings of Israel or kings of Judah. This Passover was celebrated to the Lord in Jerusalem when King Josiah was in his 18th year. Josiah destroyed the mediums, the fortune tellers, the house gods and idols. He destroyed all the hated gods seen in the land of Judah and Jerusalem. He did this to obey the words of the teachings. They were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest had found in the temple of the Lord. There was no king like Josiah before or after him. He obeyed the Lord with all of his heart, soul, and strength. He followed all the teachings of Moses." Oh man, and that is where we're going to stop for today. So when we think about this, what kind of king was Josiah? Can you imagine just being a kid or a teenager and getting up in front of all the adults, all the leaders, and saying, "We're not following God the way we should be, and we're going to get ourselves in order"? Oh my goodness, how brave is that? But also Josiah knew this is what we need to do because we haven't been following God. So what are some of the ways that Josiah followed God? Well, for one, they decided to hold Passover. He also had everyone make an agreement and they kind of rededicated their lives to Jesus. And think of all the ways that he led by tearing down the altars to all the false gods, by telling all the people, you've got to get rid of this. You've got to follow God for yourself, not just because I'm telling you to, but because you want to. So Josiah was a really great leader and a really great king and a great reminder to each of us. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you are a boy or a girl or if you're in kindergarten or if you're in high school. You can be God's leader, and we need leaders like you to remind all of us how to stay true to the one true God. All right, so let's say a prayer together and then I'll introduce today's activity. All right. Dear God, thank you for Josiah's story. Please help us to be obedient and to follow your ways in everything that we do. And may we always stay true to you and be a leader for you in big ways and small ways so that we remember to stay true to the one true God. We thank you for your love. In your name, amen. All right, so Passover. What is Passover? Remember way back at Moses, the very last plague, the angel of death passed over the homes that had the blood on the door. And that was the final plague. And it was how they were able to then leave Egypt, right? It was a way that God delivered them from Egypt. And so they celebrated this with King Josiah as a way of remembering all that God had done for them. So today I invite you, have your own celebration. We don't need a special birthday or a holiday or a day off from school to have a celebration. We can celebrate God every single day. So how can you remember to celebrate God's good gifts every day? So like maybe we blow up a balloon. So maybe you have a couple balloons at home, or what else do you do at a celebration? Maybe you make a big poster or a banner, and we have maybe noise makers, or we dance to music, or we play a game. Think of all the things we could do to celebrate. And maybe your grown-ups are like, what are you doing? What are you creating? What are we celebrating today? And you can say, we are celebrating that God is so good and he gives good gifts to us, and we want to be examples and leaders like Josiah. So have a wonderful day celebrating, and I can't wait to see pictures of how you choose to celebrate. You can send them to me in the contact info in the video description below. Have a great day celebrating all that God does for us, and I will see you tomorrow.